If you spend any time in personal finance circles, YouTube, podcasts, blogs, you've heard some version of this. Open a Roth IRA, max it out. Do it every year. It's the best thing that you can do for retirement. And look, the Roth IRA is generally a very powerful account. I'm not here to trash it, but here's what almost nobody says. For a lot of people over 50, it might not be the most important move on your list. It might not even be in the top three. Today, we're going to look at why the Roth gets so much attention. What actually matters for most people in their 50s and 60s, and how to think about whether it belongs in your specific plan. My name is Rip. Welcome back to Rip Talks Money. Do me a quick favor. Hit that like button. The more likes we get, the more YouTube will start pushing out this content. So I need all y'all to help me. So let's kick it off with this. Let me explain what a Roth IRA is and why it gets so much airtime. Because look, it is not purely because it is just the best account for everyone. There are three reasons that this account dominates personal financial content. One, look, it's a consumer product that you can act on immediately. You can open a Roth IRA at Fidelity or Vanguard in about 15 minutes. A 401k is a workplace benefit. Your employer picks it. You can't shop around. Content about things people can act on right now, it gets you more clicks and more shares. Now, number two, the headline writes itself. Tax-free money in a retirement. Look, it's a great hook. Tax-deferred growth in your traditional 401k. It sounds like a liability waiver, doesn't it? Same concept, very different emotional response. And number three, the Roth rules. They're generally complicated. You got income limits, you got the backdoor conversion, the 5-year rule, the pro rata rule, Roth conversions in retirement, and complicated rules. Well, they create an almost infinite supply of content to make and monetize. Now, none of that means that a Roth is wrong for you. It means that the amount of attention it gets, it has to do with how pushable it is rather than how universally important it is. So here's something worth knowing before we go any further. Most money sitting in traditional IRAs today, they didn't get there from years of diligent annual contributions. It got there from rollovers, primarily 401k rollovers from previous employers. Now, the best estimates, it puts somewhere between 70 and 90% of all traditional IRA dollars as rollover money, not direct contributions. So if you picture every IRA dollar as $100 on a table, about 85 of it came from a rollover, maybe 15 from just people constantly contributing. And of people who own IRAs, only about 15 to 25% of them, they actually hit the annual contribution limit in any given year. The median IRA contribution in a recent year, it was roughly 700 against a 7,000 annual limit for under 50 and 8,000 for 50 and over. Fun fact for you, only about 2% of all Americans max out their 401k and their Roth IRA every single year. So what matters more after 50? Let me give you a priority stack for someone who's either in their 50s or early 60s, because the Roth IRA, it sits further down the list than most content suggests. First, you should be capturing your full employer's 401k match. This is still a 50 to 100% instant return on your money before you invest anywhere else. If you're not getting the full match, that's the first dollar to fix. Second, pay off your high interest debt. No investment return is going to reliably beat a 20% plus credit card rate. Folks, this is math here, not philosophy. Third, build your emergency fund. 6 to 12 months of expenses in something stable. Now, after 50, a job disruption without a cash cushion, that can force you to tap into retirement accounts early, which triggers taxes and penalties and disrupts the compounding that you have spent decades building. Fourth, if you have access to an HSA, that is a health savings account, that often comes before a Roth. That is triple tax advantage. Pre-tax contributions, tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawals from medical expenses. After 65, guess what? It functions like a traditional IRA for non-medical withdrawals. There is no use it or lose it. It's one of the most underused accounts in personal finance, and it belongs ahead of the Roth for most people who are eligible. Then comes your Roth or your traditional IRA. Valuable, worth doing, but it competes for dollars against the above options. And for many people in their 50s or later, those early priorities are where the real money is. Now, let me be honest about the case where the Roth IRA is generally the right move for someone over 50. If you spent your whole career contributing to a traditional 401k, you may be heading into retirement with a significant tax liability sitting in pre-taxed accounts. Now, every dollar you eventually withdraw, it gets taxed as ordinary income. Your required minimum distributions starting at 73 or 75, they can force large taxable withdrawals, potentially bumping up your Medicare premiums, which you don't want to do, folks. And it can also increase how much of your Social Security gets taxed. A Roth, either through your annual contributions or your Roth conversions, that gives you a tax-free bucket to draw from strategically. The years between retirement and your RMD age, they can be a golden window to do this. Your income may be lower than it's been in decades, which means you can convert at lower rates. And if your employer plan isn't great, some 401ks have limited fund menus. They got high expensive ratio options or these hidden fees. An IRA at Vanguard or Fidelity, it gives you access to ultra low-cost index funds with full investment flexibility. So if your workplace plan is mediocre, the IRA is a meaningful upgrade. Roth IRAs have no minimum requirements, right? Nothing. If you don't need the money in retirement, it can keep growing tax-free. And you can pass it to hers. So for people with estate planning goals, this matters. And here's a point that almost never comes up in a Roth-focused content. For some people over 50, a taxable brokerage account, it deserves a lot more attention than a Roth IRA. Retirement accounts are more locked up. Yes, look, there are workarounds for Roth contributions, but the money is generally intended for later in life. If you're targeting early retirement, so before 59 and a half, or you just want flexibility to deploy capital for something else, taxable investing, that may serve you better. And taxable accounts, they are more tax efficient than people realize. Buy and hold a broad index fund. Turnover is low. Your expenses can be negligible here. Dividends, they're often taxed at favorable qualified rates. And guess what? Your gains aren't taxed until you sell. Step up in basis at death means that hers may never pay capital gains on decades of growth. Think about that. Now look, the point isn't that the Roth is bad. It's that the automatic reflex to open a Roth, it sometimes crowds out a conversation about where your dollars actually do the most work in your specific situation. Now, if you were 21 just getting into the workforce, completely different story. I would tell you max out your Roth every single year, and by the time you're in your mid-40s, you're going to be a millionaire. But if you're over 50s, 50s, 60s, a Roth might not be the right move for you folks. So here's the bottom line. The Roth IRA, it is generally powerful account, but it is a must consider, not a must have. For people over 50 to sequence up priorities, they matter more than any single account. Your full 401k match, your high interest debt, your emergency fund, and your HSA all deserve to come first for most people. If those boxes are checked and you want tax diversification or your employer plan is just mediocre, the Roth absolutely belongs in your plan. The reason it gets so much attention, it has a lot more to do with how clickable and how monetizable it is than with how universally critical it is. Know the difference. I hope this video was useful, folks. Drop a comment and tell me, do you got a Roth? You got a traditional IRA? Maybe you got both. New video coming out soon. Make sure you turn on those notifications so you don't miss it. And hit that like button. Look, I'm Rip, and I will see all y'all on the next one.